Good morning, friends. Welcome out to the garden. You're at the 1870s Homestead, and my name's Rachel. And we're getting a lot of stuff done in the garden today. It is May 20th, I believe, and it's just been like record heat, high 80s right now for, late-ish May. It's really unseasonably hot. We've also had like about a week break of rain, a couple like showers, but nothing substantial, so the garden needs watering. I'm going to be doing some fertilizing, and we're going to be doing some planting together. So let's see how much we can get accomplished this morning before the heat takes me away. It's about 6:30, and right now we're just starting with some all-purpose BioLife. I'm going to go around the garden and just sprinkle that on the things I want to give it to, and I'll share with you what that is as I'm going. So we are going to give some to our flowers that we just planted, the calendula. I'll give a little bit in each of my flower beds. And then when I water, this will just water all that in. And then my carrots. Some of these carrots beds had excellent germination and others not so much. Like this row is really patchy. I really should go back through and seed some lettuce or something in the bare spots. And even though I just weeded this all last week, I'm definitely seeing some little grasses trying to pop up again. And this one has a little patch of random 2 kale plants that came back from just self-seeding. Even though we didn't grow anything in the garden last year. And I haven't planted kale since 2017. It just self-seeds every year. So kind of nice. You can dig it up early and move it if you want to. I usually typically leave it or cut it out where I don't want it. Grab some more. But anyway, you get the idea. That's what I'm doing. I'm just, lightly and yet a little heavily. You can really see it sitting on the surface of the soil. This all-purpose BioLife. I'm also going to give this to the cabbages and the broccolis. I planted the peppers are all along this wheat row. Yep, that's what that is. That's peppers and calendula. So I'll give the peppers some, and then the celery in the back. Eventually I'll walk you guys around in case you've missed the last garden updates and give you just an update on how things are going. It really, other than some losses to that heavy spring rain, everything is looking so good. So I'll be back in just a little bit and see what the next thing that we're going to get done. Oh, it's wet. It did, like I said, it showered yesterday. We're going to come start right here at our trellises with our cherry tomatoes. And I do need to grab some more fertilizer for this part of the project. So, hi. I love this new feature of the camera. It can just come with me. You guys feel like you're right here with me following along in the garden. All right. So normally I would make a compost slurry, and maybe I'll have Todd post a little clip in here. And basically I would take kind of like, half a gallon or 3/4 of a gallon of compost. and fill that with water, put in a little bit of molasses and some warm milk, stir it, let it sit for 24 hours, and then that's what I would plant in. But it's just been so hot, and this morning I didn't feel like getting all dirty and doing that. So I'm hoping that the compost that we amended this bed with is going to be good enough. Let me get down here, and I do have some grasses that I'm going to pluck and pull, and just not a ton. And this is just a bare spot. Like anywhere the grass is coming up is just a bare spot where it's not covered with leaves. So after I get my tomatoes planted in here, I have a lot of excess leaves around the borders of the garden. I'll come through and mulch this heavily. It'll just help keep them. We're supposed to have a super hot summer. Like, I'm thinking like 90s is going to be a normal this summer. And normally for us, we might have, a week or here and there of heat like that. So I'm hoping that we end up getting some kind of tomato harvest, because tomatoes really don't like to, a lot of fruit for that matter, vegetables don't like to produce in heat that they're not meant to thrive in. So tomatoes will go into self-preservation mode, I think over like 85 or something like that. They'll kind of stop flowering. I believe zucchini can act like that as well. So this is one of our, I think it's a black beauty cherry tomato. These were gifted to us. And I'm going to plant these at both ends of my trellises because they'll get big and bushy and they can come out here towards the chairs. So I'll bring you guys down here and show you how I'm planting them. Okay, I've gotten a few planted so far. So this is one of my seed-grown tomatoes. And what I did was I was running out of space growing them in the house. And so I, instead of potting them up like this in the house, I potted them up in a seed roll method. And they did really well until they didn't. So they grew. I know some of you were worried about their roots getting all tangled. That did not happen at all. So I'm going to throw in a couple pictures here what it looked like. And I know I used craft paper for that method, and a lot of people were worried that the craft paper was just going to disintegrate and you weren't going to be able to handle it. That did not happen. And I just bottom watered. So the craft paper held together really well. What happened was I just don't think that there is enough soil to nourish them properly. So after they had hardened off outside, and they were outside 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they really started turning like yellow and looking weak, like super weak. Like the stalks weren't thick and healthy, and even this isn't a great stalk for me growing a tomato inside. It's still a little weak, or young, I should say, in development. And so probably a week to 10 days ago, I went ahead, because I knew it was going to be a minute till I could get out here and pot these up, and potted them up in solo cups. And look, no yellow. They bounced back so beautifully. And I mixed in some compost with the potting mix that I used to pot them up. And so the good and the bad is it did what I wanted it to do. It saved me space in the house, It got me tomatoes to plant out here. But they aren't the size that I would prefer going into this. So when we were at the nursery for Mother's Day getting Todd's mom plants, I did buy some. So I chose like a handful of my own to plant out because I think it's going to be just a good finish that experiment. And do they perform any less in my garden? And if they still perform okay, even though they're not as far along as I would like them, I may do it again. And I think what I would probably do is less in a roll with more soil. Does that make sense? So I did soil maybe it was 1.5 inches deep. And I might go like 3 inches deep on the soil and just less in a roll. And I think I would still save space. Hopefully, I would have to try that. But I want to go back to, I think it's great for seed starting, definitely. I could see that totally being a benefit. But then you have to think of all those seeds have to go somewhere, right? So another lesson for me is maybe I just don't do as many flowers, and I won't, or I time that differently, the flowers starting. I'm not sure. So we'll see what I do, if anything different next year. Or I just need to get two grow towers. I don't know where I would put it in the house, but where there's a will, there's a way. All right. So I'm just gonna really enjoy my day, guys, in my morning out here and get these tomatoes planted. I'll come back when it's time to do the raised beds. We're doing zucchini, and pumpkin and butternut squash. And I'll walk you around at the end and show you how the peppers turned out and the tomatoes turned out and just how everything's doing. But I kind of gotta stop talking so I can get this stuff done. So I'll see you guys as soon as I'm back. Okay, the tomatoes have all been planted. I think I have, let me just count real quick, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So about 27 tomato plants, and I have 1 extra. So I'll just give that to my daughter-in-law. Her son, she came and got some of the tomatoes that I started, and my little grandson picked all the leaves off one, being such a helpful gardener, so I'll give her that one. And guys, when I was digging in that, and I was digging so deep, that soil is still so wet. Not sopping wet, but I'm questioning whether or not I need to water. And we've had like 1/2 inch of rain over the last 2 weeks, probably in total, maybe a little bit more. So the true test will be my raised beds. So, and while I was fertilizing the broccoli in this heat, you're gonna wanna like watch all those cold hardy crops because they will sprout on you when you least expect it. And I have the smallest little head on one of my big plants because it was just heading up that I can tell is trying to flower. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest that this morning and then just dice it and we can toss it in something. But let's head over to the, over here to the raised garden beds, and there's a little weeding I have to do and some kale in there that I need to dig up and move somewhere. And we're gonna be planting zucchini in that front bed. So let's go over there and do that. We'll see how much you guys can see with me. There is, can you guys see this? Not quite, I'll dig it up. But here's one that I know you can see. Zucchini, no, kale. I have like 4 or 5 kale starts. Sunflower in here, I'll try to dig up and transplant. And then I've got onions at 4 corners. And one of the things that you can do with onions is interplant them with different plants for the purposes of, yeah, you can harvest them for sure, but they also are a great pest repellent. And I have aphids really bad in my garden right now. My green beans are getting just ate up. And whatever they are, they're those little tiny green ones, like almost white green, and they bite. Like if they get on your leg, you feel like a little pinch. So I'm not quite sure what those kind of aphids are, but I hate them. And this, I have yet to figure out what this root is, this weed. Let me show you. It kind of looks like a type of spiky nettly leaf, but it's not nettle. It's grows like rhizome style off of roots. And if you don't find the rhizome that it's growing off of, it's just going to keep coming back and spreading. And I have the heck of a time getting the rhizome. Yes. So anyway, I'm digging in this soil. This is my raised bed garden soil, and it is still very, very wet. You know, and when I say wet, I mean, if I was a plant, I could thrive in this environment. It's not screaming for water. So, let me get these kale plants out. I just brought over some of the pots, and we're just gonna pop these out and move them somewhere else. Okay, so that's probably 4 baby kale plants. Oh no, there's one more. We'll find a place for them. I'll probably plant them down the center of my tomatoes, because the kale will appreciate some shade during the middle of the heat. And as I'm walking through there, I can pick kale. And then we're gonna get that sunflower out of there. I have been successful transplanting sunflowers in the past. Not always, but typically. As long as you don't break too many stems. Okay. That's just a weed. Borage everywhere in here. And that's about all the weeding really that I need to take care of right now. That's great. And this is a 4x8 raised beds. You want to give zucchini at least 2 square feet of growing space. So I think I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. And then we'll have kind of it filling the bed and overflowing. Sound good? And I really need more mulch in here, because this will dry out if there's not enough mulch on it. So I'll see if I can find some more leaves to bring over here when I'm done planting. And give it some little fertilizer. And I'm growing from Haas Spineless Supreme Zucchini. Okay, grow well, friend. So I'm gonna work my way around that, plant that, and then we're gonna head to this back raised bed and do our butternut squash and pumpkin. So many rocks in that last compost I bought. I bought just from a local kind of farmer guy. I would say local. He was within a 40-mile distance. And I saw it when he dropped it off. I was like, ooh, that's a lot of rock. And I'd assume he was making it on a gravel, like driveway area. And I don't think I'll order from him again. Okay, lots to dig up in here. I went and grabbed some more cups. So I have a lot of sunflowers over here that are way bigger than I would normally transplant. So this is going to be quite tricky. I did get all the roots, so we'll take him. And I'm too big for this cup, but something to hold it anyway, so I can move it. And then some of these that are just growing in these onions, there's really not an easy way for me to get those out. So we're just going to pinch them off. And if you're growing your own sunflowers for the first time, if you let them go to seed and you're growing multiple varieties, I highly recommend it because you'll get some of the most amazing cross-pollination. They're just so, so beautiful when they cross-pollinate. You never know what you're going to get. It's always a surprise. And you can create some of your own beauties. And it's like last year I had a lemon queen crossed with a teddy bear. Oh, that was stunning. All right, so, oh, yeah, I don't know if I want to dig in these too much because they're so close to the onions, but there is a few more kale in here too. Some weeds when you get out. Onions don't like competition, so it really is best to get these out. It's starting to get warm out, guys. This is taking me a long time, but I'm a slow gardener, just like I'm a slow cooker. I'm not very fast at things. I take my time, and so I'm digging in this, and similarly, it feels nice and moist. Definitely not as moist as something that would be in the ground, like an earth bed, but it is still pretty moist. It just definitely needs much more mulch to be successful at me having to water less and less. So there's probably 3 kale starts right here. I don't need all that kale. Maybe similarly, I'll ask my daughter-in-law if she wants any. Okay, somebody mentioned that, I don't know if it's true, I've never tried it, and I've never grown butternut squash. So we're gonna try growing butternut squash with our pumpkin, and supposedly it keeps the pest away, like if you weave the vines in between each other. So similarly, I'm gonna really fill this bed max because I'll let the pumpkins vine out on the pathways, and we'll just step over them like we always do. So I think I'll do 4 butternut squash, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll do 2 sugar pie pumpkins in the middle of them. And this bed is always my weakest bed for some reason. I've tried to amend it, and it's just taken me a long time to get this soil just right. So we'll do, what did I say, 1 butternut squash, 4 each side. Okay, and then we'll come back through and intermix our sugar pie pumpkins. And similarly to the zucchini, you're going about 2 square feet per plant. And it just depends if you're growing them vertically, trailing them, or, you know, I've done like little arch trellises between the raised beds before, and that worked well. All right, this one's definitely gonna need some water. Okay, we are all done planting and weeding everything that I needed to do this morning. So now we're just gonna grab the hose, water the raised beds. I'm gonna water all my onions. So I do have onions growing along the potato row, and because they need a lot of water. And I think that's gonna be it. Okay, for watering, guys, I just use a hose. On a sprinkler head right now. I typically only have the 360 or 280 oscillating sprinkler once everything's established. Can't find it right now. Otherwise I would turn that on, but I don't have any fancy setups. I try not to depend on watering and get away with that with like mulch. But right now, we need just a little bit. Onions need at least an inch, if not 2 inches of water. Woo! No. Per week. Oh, good gosh. Oh, it broke. Something broke. I think it was just a gasket. So I'm just gonna water in the onions really, really well. So I did fertilize those today. And they do need 1 to 2 inches of water per week. And we've only had about a ½ inch of rain, like I mentioned. So we're gonna water those in really good. Water in the carrots, give the fertilizer to them. I'm just gonna do all my raised beds really well. And then lightly water in the tomatoes, the fertilizer on the peppers. And I did mulch again, that back raised bed, just to help it a little bit. And if you're new to gardening, about watering, try to water morning or evening. You don't want to water in the heat of the day. It'll just evaporate, and it can cause like fungus and stuff during the day while the sun's baking on the wet, damp leaves.